Ricardo van der Ende, the pace setters this year, but look at that sky. I think that could have a role to play in this race. I can't see that from my commentary position. It's behind it. That is a very, very dark cloud. But the other end of the circuit, it is the Eiffel Forest. You get what you get. Track temperatures starting to fall. They hit nearly 21 degrees earlier today, but those are interesting skies. Fabulous for photographers, but maybe not quite as good or as welcome for the race drivers. But this ever-growing championship, GT4, is just booming around the world. And the organisers must be very, very delighted indeed. More new faces this weekend. We've got the Schwede Motorsport team coming along with two Caymans to bolster the field, and bolster they have. And various other new cars. A second Cayman from CD Sport coming out to play as well. And many, many new drivers dropping into the championship too. But the BMW M4 on that pole position. Max Kobalt will start and will hand over to Ricardo van der Ende. They've already dominated this series, but it's all the cameo roles of new drivers coming into the mix that just keep everybody on the toes in GT4. Reinhard Koffler will start the best of the KTMs from the outside of the front row, and then there's another KTM inside of the second row, Mads Siljehaug. And then the best of the McLaren, Csaba Mor, the Hungarian racer, Keep Verschoor. He and Finley Hutchison are going better and better. They will start from fourth on the grid. But right now, with 19 rows of cars down here, 37 starters, we have a wonderful field of cars. And it continues to burgeon. More and more manufacturers producing cars that are going to come out and play in this. We already had an AMG Mercedes show its face not long ago, and many more will follow for 2018. But GT4 split this year into the Southern Cup and the Northern Cup, growing and growing. So there it is, confirmation that Kobalt van der Ende BMW will start at the front of the grid. Then two KTMs, number 14 and 64, the best of the McLarens. And the best of the next class down, 54. It's Ben Mazartis and August Macbeth who will kick off from fifth on the grid in another of the KTM crossbows alongside, in fact, it's four KTM crossbows in the top six places. Lennart Marionek, a race winner early this year for RYS team Kiska, who will start from sixth on the grid. The sky gets darker and darker behind that graphic, which suggests the second drivers in this 1 hour race might have rather different racing conditions than the drivers who start when we get underway just in a few minutes' time. Even 3 pages not enough on these timing screens. We've got 37 starters. We've got one extra car off the back of the grid. Dario Cerati will start the car from the bottom of the grid. And there is Franjo Kovac and Cora Schumacher, and Franjo will start the Beza Group Racing Team Cayman from the back of the grid. Field starting to pick up the pace, but the start will be dictated. Obviously, it's not like a restart. The drivers will come around in grid order, then they have to get their eyes up onto the start-finish gantry. They're checking for those red lights. I can see them from my commentary position. They're just below the logo on the BMW Empire Bridge, which is quite fitting because it's an Empire BMW waiting for the start. Can't see the lights. They can now. They're red. The drivers are waiting very late. But off we go with green. Who made the best start? And it looks so the McLaren is very good from the second row of the grid. Has he tucked in behind the BMW? The BMW is leading the way. And Reinhard Koffler on the outside of the front row has been jumped, so it's Moore into second place. Now he's taken a very wide line down into turn one. He's confident there isn't enough of a challenge from behind, and Koffler's got caught out. Koffler goes wide into the gravel. Oh, he started on the outside of the front row. He's going to be about 30th by the time, well, about 20th by the time he gets out of T1 back onto the circuit. So good start from pole by Kobalt. Good run up into second place from fourth for Moore. Midfield going, of course, 94, that's in the mix as well, but that should be higher up the order. That's Nikolai Rogivu. So really the big gain there was up into second place from fourth for the McLaren, Csaba Mor. The big loss, quite clearly, Reinhard Koffler locked up, just went a bit deep in the corner. Don't know if there was didn't get his braking done, maybe it was a little bit slippery on the outside, but into the gravel he went. And now the car that started third, Mads Siljehaug, in the best of the crossbows, having to... in 5th place overall. That's probably number 222. I'll get an eye on that. There's 994 in the thick of the mix. 34 trying to pick its way back up the order. 34. RYS team Kiska car, Lennart Marionek. That lost a little bit of ground on the opening lap. All very tidy in the drop, and then come up the rise to the chicane. Looks though the Aston Martin starting to shape up for a look, but sticks in 4th place with Will Moore. The first two starting to break clear. If anything, I'd say Will Moore's being slightly delayed by Mads Siljehaug, but Siljehaug in 3rd place. End of the opening lap, 0.6 of a second advantage, 0.684 of a second. Cobalt from Moore, a challenge. I said the Aston Martin was coming, he's going to run out of circuit there. But into 3rd place, can he get the braking done? Will Moore hammering on the brakes. He gets down turn 1, should have done enough to remain. So start of lap 2, we have a change for 3rd place, and Moore goes up to 3rd. Into turn 1, very tidy move, but he had a good run onto the start-finish straight. And for Siljehaug, back down, and now he's got a challenge because number 4 has gained a place on that opening lap, gained several places, and that was Alain Ferte, Formula 3000 front runners all those years ago, using the pace that he's been showing in flashes, in particular in the Southern Cup, but this is the Northern Cup. 37 cars out to play, 37 cars completing the opening lap. I'm just going to have a little look down the race order and see where number 14 crossed the start-finish line. Number 14, Reinhard Koffler, 20th position. Don't forget, he started on the outside of the front row. .34 pushing hard. That's Lennart Marionek, but he lost a place. And now Cobalt starting to stretch his legs. Csaba Mor trying to go with him. Will Moore trying his best to keep up, but what we're seeing is our race leader is stretching his advantage. He's gained 0.6 of a second on the McLaren of the Hungarian racer, Csaba Mor, on the first third of this lap. 994. That's Nikolai Moller-Madsen, 8th place overall, being pushed very hard by. You must feel there's a KTM crossbow at every turn behind you. I think that's August Macbeth who's in, yes, I think charging around with him. Yes, it is. They're the two fighting together. Going well. Street Art Racing Aston Martin, you can just see it coming up the hill. Jerome de May at the wheel of that. Looks like August Macbeth is trying to take the place back and has just achieved it going into the final corner. Is he ahead coming out? Yes, Macbeth has got the crossbow ahead of de May's Aston Martin. Fastest lap of the race set by our race leader. He's doubled his advantage, 0.145 of a second now. Street Art Racing Aston Martin, it was past, had more grunts, and has regained that 5th place. Sorry, 6th place. Down the start-finish straight, 007, yeah. Listed as 7th on the start-finish line, but got back ahead of August Macbeth, so he's up to 6th now. There it is, Cobalt, Moore. See, it's confusing, Moore and Moore. 2nd and 3rd places. A Hungarian driver ahead of the Brit. The McLaren ahead of the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin has now got Mads Siljehaug tucking in behind. Alain Ferte trying to go with. Then Jerome de May next in that grouping. You can see he's got plenty of company from Nikolai Moller-Madsen and August Macbeth in behind. The dark clouds that were gathering over the Nürburgring appear to have gone. The last few minutes it's suddenly become really bright. You can see this late afternoon sun making the cars look absolutely fabulous. in this 1 hour race. The first of two for the GT4 European Series Northern Cup. And no wonder this series goes from strength to strength, racing at some really fabulous circuits and producing brilliant racing. Csaba Mor has now got real company because Will Moore and Aston Martin's all but pushing him up the hill. And tucked in behind, Mads Siljehaug, desperate to get in on the action. 4 cars almost as one, but then in behind, nearly a passing manoeuvre for third place there. And joining them just after the shot, the number 4 Porsche. Oh, well, it's unfortunate. Csaba Mor made a slight mistake, bottled up Will Moore, and no second invitation needed by Mads Siljehaug. And in behind, a little bit of bodywork. Little strip on the edge of the front of that number 4 Porsche. He is right in the mix as well. Just wait, there he comes, braking way later as they come up into the chicane. So Alain Ferté in the mix. Wonderful 4-car battle, but what's happening out front? The gap was only 1.4 seconds between Csaba Mor in that McLaren and Max Koborg, but Koborg off into the distance. He must have gained about 3 seconds on this lap. Let's see what the gap is. Start finish line 5.5. He gained 4 and a bit seconds over the chasing McLaren, but McLaren now having to work so hard. And Mads Siljehaug, his KTM, being attacked by Alain Ferté. Alain Ferté suddenly relieving the pressure there on Will Moore, who made just a brilliant exit of the first corner by Csaba Mor. Will Moore slightly more circumspect in his Aston Martin, and gaining on both is Mads Siljehaug all over again. So the KTM crossbow driver getting right into the mix, but Alain Ferté was the driver who was making the moves last time around. He wasn't fighting so fiercely with the opposition. He was able to get his head down and lap, but there you can see the McLaren in second place, the Aston Martin in third, the KTM crossbow in fourth, and the best of the Porsche Caybans in fifth place overall. And oh dear, we've lost number 94. Well, that is very cruel indeed. That's Nikolai Rogovu. He'd been going very well. He crossed the start finish line in 11th place, and I'm afraid he's over and out of the race. You can see he's lost a carcass of a tyre, or maybe a wheel. You can see the skid marks all over the side of the circuit, off the track. We've got yellow flags. It's a yellow flag sector 1. Oh dear, you have to feel that number 22 was involved in that incident as well, unless he went off. That's Jan Kasperlik, Jörg Wiebahn, fighting around. That was Jan Kasperlik who started that, just outside the top 10. Oh no, the Bullet Racing McLaren as well. So this has been a moment of several moments, perhaps. Bullet Racing car smoking away. That's number 33. That's very unfortunate indeed. Didn't want to lose any racers in this race, but we've lost a handful. Stephen Patrick started that. Was waiting for takeover by Andy Merrick later in the race. So Stephen Patrick still learning his way, but we can't put any fingers on any blame. We haven't seen the incident, but unfortunately we've lost a handful of cars. So the 33 out, the 94 out, and the 22 out. Whether they were interrelated, you have to feel they certainly were. So the yellow flag still in sector 1, and we have that change. Mads Siljehaug has just lost out and just been passed around that lap by the Porsche of Ferté. There you can see the sweep out of the stadium reception. It's on the exit of turn 1 where we've lost that little grouping. You see the McLaren on the grass on the exit of turn 2, down to turn 3 they go. Csaba Mor holding off Will Moore in the Aston Martin. Csaba now bounces over the curbs on the inside, gets pushed a little bit wide, a wider line through turn 4 from the Aston Martin racer. Here's a replay. Just outside the top 10, up the inside we have a manoeuvre there. I think there's more to come in this replay, because what happened up behind? Here, no, just looking. cars that seem to get 30 and 94. 94 ends up in the barrier. 30 gets to carry on. 30 is the CD Sport, Mathieu Cheraille, Kevin Ball, Besançon, Cayman, which Mathieu Cheraille started. But what we have now is a change of position while we're looking at that replay. We've got Wilmore ahead of Csaba Mor, then Csaba washing very wide indeed, and suddenly Alain Ferte is going to be right on his tail. And it's also Mads Siljehaug, so a little bit of a slip up there from Csaba Mor, been driving very well, and again he's left his braking very late and slipping up and slipping across the grass and through, as Alain Ferte was thinking, what is that car doing up ahead of us? Suddenly, as the McLaren rejoined the circuit, it certainly took Alain Ferte's eye off the ball. He's now got Jerome Demey, Aston Martin, right on his tail, and two more tucked in behind, two more crossbows. We've got Marionec and August Macbeth trying to regain places they lost earlier in the race. Alain Ferte right on the tail of Mads Siljehaug. Somehow, after that double mistake from Csaba Mor, he's still on the circuit and still ahead of this grouping. But for Wilmore, he said, thank you very much, I will hold down second place now rather than third. But the battle behind, so tight. Csaba Mor somehow still in third place, but look how close it is for the grouping behind. Wilmore in the black Aston Martin, now second, but then Csaba Mor, Mads Siljehaug, it's Al, and now Jerome Demey in that silver Aston Martin going up the inside of Alain Ferte. Can he make it work? No, he can't. Discretion, the better part of valour. He hits the brakes, luckily doesn't get clattered from behind. Then at Marionec and August Macbeth right in behind, top 10 being completed by Nicky Leutwiler and Reinhard Koffler there. Csaba Mor's performance seems to be dropping away. I don't know if he started consuming the tyres with great vigour, or was it his brakes? There is a replay of a move by Wilmore. He's not ahead at this point, but coming down the hill, he's taking the outside line. That's turn 7, down to the hairpin. Turn 8, he's got it sewn up. Csaba Mor wise by staying out wide, didn't contest it when he realised that the Aston Martin had the inside line. Now, what's going to happen in before? You certainly feel that Mr. Jerome Demey is pushed very hard by Lennart Marionec in 34. You certainly feel that Csaba Mor is going to be monstered, but he's being helped at the moment because Alain Ferte there is sitting, trying to see what he can do to Mads Siljehaug. Maybe all can calm down in the cockpit of the Equipe Verschoor McLaren. It does have a little bit of clear air. There it is in third place. Oh, we have a clatter from behind. Jerome Demey has been given a thump by 34. Lennart Marionec lost some of his bodywork against the back of the Aston Martin. Couldn't see why that would happen. This is lap 6. And a big surprise there. Now you can see how tattered Marionec's KTM is. Well, that's an absolutely surprising one. No one was braking particularly heavy at that point, but bodywork disintegrating. Will that be called into the pits? You'd certainly say it's not just tatty, and maybe it's not safe, because various bits of the front end of that car could be dropping off. So disappointment for the Kiska entry there. Started from 6th, was running in about 7th place when that happened, but a big surprise too for Jerome Demey. Oh dear, they're falling at the moment. That's the second CD Sport car to be involved in an incident. That's number 31. And that was started by Benjamin Ritchie. It's had a spin. You can say, well, he's tried to drive through the gravel. He's just about made it to the back, but front end contact. The sister car with Mathieu Cheraille, we saw off the circuit down on the exit of turn 1, but managed to carry on. So Csaba Mor working hard. Now he's got real company because Mads Siljehaug closer than he has been for a while, helped by the fact as Benjamin Ritchie's Cayman sits there in the gravel, front wheel not quite at the right angle, helped by the fact that Alain Ferte is not on Siljehaug's tail right now. So there he is in 64, able to press off and getting a far tidier exit as they run down the hill, and now it's his chance to get his nose ahead of Csaba Mor. And don't forget, it was into this corner that Csaba had to cede position. This time just manages to get the McLaren turned in. Last time he was challenged down there. Wilmore in the Aston Martin got down the inside and made it stick. And this time Csaba Mor having to try really, really hard to be defensive and only just keeping ahead of Mads Siljehaug. incident between car number 31 and 34 under investigation. 34, of course, was the Team Kiska car, and 31 was the CD Sport car of Benjamin Ritchie. Don't quite understand that. They didn't start anywhere near each other on the grid. Get back to you on that one. I thought the contact between 34... I'm sorry that I'm confusing my sisters. That's Marionek. So, up front, leading easily, 6.8 seconds clear. Hardly seen him for a while. He's got such an advantage. We've got Cobalt leading in the M4. Just starts another lap. I have to crane my head. Still can't see the second place car, which will be the Aston Martin. There it is, of Will Moore. Then the third place McLaren of Csaba Mor, still holding onto that third place, but look at the train of cars behind him. Moore, Celia Haug, Ferte, DeMay, Marionek and August Macbeth. But will Marionek be called in? You can see behind the silver Aston Martin, you've got the flapping front end on Marionek's car, not affecting its performance, but certainly fewer bits on the front of that car. One suggests they've been dropped out around the circuit, and you don't want to be dropping sharp bits of carbon fibre. And now again, Csaba Mor just struggling to get his car turned into the slower corners. You can see that tattered front bodywork, but it looks as though Csaba Mor is being challenged by Celia Haug, who is ahead in third place. It is this time just in front, Csaba Mor. It is a question of when, surely not if. Alain Ferte had been off Celia Haug's tail, buys a little bit of respite for Csaba Mor because he is now back on the tail of Celia Haug. Celia Haug had a couple of laps attacking without Alain Ferte, but he's been delayed by Csaba Mor, and that has allowed Alain Ferte in the white and red Porsche Cayman to close right back in. Just under 3/4 of an hour of this 1 hour race remaining, or more to the point. And now, near contact, Ferte's clipped the rear of dearie me, of Mad Celia Haug, a big tank slapper, and somehow he holds on to fourth place. As the Aston Martin Jerome DeMay got very, very close indeed. That was a fabulous hold, but unfortunately, a little bit of contact and a slapper there for Alain Ferte. So that'll working him up a bit. Just as he closed in on the tail of Mad Celia Haug. That allows Celia Haug again a chance to attack, without attack from behind, attack Csaba Mor, but somehow the Equipe Verschoor McLaren is still there in third place. And Ferte hasn't lost track position, he just lost track order, but he lost a couple of seconds, and that KTM looking more and more tatty, number 34 in the hands of Lennart Marionek. So on to another lap. Csaba Mor has now got Celia Haug right in his slipstream, 1/4 of a second between them, but towards the end of the straight, the sleeker McLaren pulls away again. Obviously different performance at different points on the circuit. Alain Ferte remains just ahead of Jerome DeMay. The battle for 7th place, Lennart Marionek, the tattered number 34. Still just ahead of August Macbeth, but August must be seeing the bits flapping, thinking, are any of those going to fall out and strike my car? 54 is Macbeth. From RYS Team Pankel. In fact, now we've got 2 more cars joining the group. Reinhard Koffler and Nicky Leutwiller, the Porsche Cayman driver, number 222. They are in the top 10 and getting closer and closer to Macbeth in the car that's flapping the bodywork. Number 34 of Lennart Marionek. Taking a tighter line into the hairpin this time, still holding on to third place, Csaba Mor, but he's now 7 and a bit seconds down on Will Moore, who passed him really not that long ago, but certainly front-end grip seems to be a problem for Csaba Mor, washing very wide, not so much in that corner, but certain other points around the circuit. Turn 5 springs to mind. You see bits of tyre debris at the side of the circuit, but Celia Haug can do nothing about Csaba Mor at the moment. Their gap is swinging one way, singing another. Incident between car number 94, which is a RYS Team Schönrahmer car, Nikolai Roggeview, and car number 30 under investigation. 30 was the car we saw off the circuit, Mathieu Charoy, but that was the one that was able to continue, whereas car 94 over and out. certainly not looking as though it's come out of a showroom. Number 34 continues to complete the 9th lap of the race. I have good news. Will Moore has started to close the gap on the race-leading BMW, but I think that's possibly down to the race leader being in among the traffic, but he came down by 0.2 of a second, and he's trying again. August Macbeth in 54 finally gets past Lennart Marianek. At the back of that little pack, we've got Reinhard Koffler in the number 14 RYST KTM, and he has just set the fastest, one of the 3 fastest sectors of the race, so he is getting closer and closer to Macbeth. That's why Macbeth had to leap and very quickly make that move to finally get past Lennart Marianek. So look out for 14. You can see it in the background of your shot, tucked in 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is with the red nose. Red nose KTM coming good as the race goes on. Don't forget, Koffler went off. He was outside of the front row and he went off into the gravel at the first turn. Came back on in a 20-something position, so that's been really quite a charge. That's been the sub-story of the race, but having seen this battling third place grouping, it's hard to draw your eyes away from it, but he's now in the back of the group. There he is, third of those those KTMs, De May, Marianek, Macbeth. De May in the Aston Martin, obviously. The silver one there, just coming to your screen, 007, and now Macbeth is challenging him. A little bit of something flying in the air. I don't think it was off the Aston Martin. I think it was actually some of the bodywork that got tattered at that very point a few laps ago when Marianek hit the back of the Aston Martin. Marianek, the meat in the KTM sandwich, and certainly Reinhard Koffler in that red nose number 14 fancies his chance of getting past both these. The fact he's gained about 20 positions to get there. Little bits of debris all around the circuit. That, fortunately, is tyre debris. And Macbeth, having got ahead of Marianek, has had to hand it back on last lap and trying to take it all over again up the inside into the final corner. He'll do so. They'll probably push both themselves wide, and will this allow number 14, Reinhard Koffler, to make a better move onto the start-finish straight? Most certainly it has. Moore still under pressure from Mads Siljehaug, but look for the KTMs behind. Marianek on the outside, the blue nose of Macbeth up the inside, and maybe up the inside of both comes Reinhard Koffler. He's definitely going to get inside Marianek. Yes, 14 now ahead of 34. Can't believe how that bodywork, the broken bodywork, is staying together. It hasn't visibly got any worse than it was just after the impact with the back of the Aston Martin. Drive-through penalty for car number 34. Well, that's the driver there. Hard to see the number because a bit of bodywork is flapping away. So for that contact with the back of the Aston Martin on your screen now, Marianek gets a drive-through penalty. So he's just fallen from 7th to 8th. And that will drop him way down the order. Look how close that battle is. There is Marianek. Number 34 flapping away right in behind. He's got Nicky Leutviller in the 222 Porsche Cayman. But here is our race leader, 6.3 seconds clear. Max Cobalt, he'll be handing over at some point in this race when we get the pit window open, which will be fairly soon, to Ricardo van der Ende. But sitting so strongly, clear championship dominators. Not just here at the Nürburgring, but across the course of the season. 3 wins to their name already, and you'd have to say looking very good to add another one. The championship already in the bag in the Silver Cup. Lennart Marianek was next best place in that. Of course, he's just got to drive-through penalty, but the championship already in the bag for the Silver Cup for the top crews. Now Alain Ferte coming good again in 5th place, the top of the Pro-Am runners. He's getting onto the tail of Mads Siljehaug, which again will relieve the pressure on Csaba Mor in the 3rd place McLaren. And in for its drive-through penalty just before the pit window opens comes Lennart Marianek. That will promote someone else to the tail of the top 10. It should be car number 994, which should be Nikolai Moller-Madsen, who's sharing that with one of the many new faces in the championship, Marek Bachmann, this weekend. So this enticing battle between the KTMs. Now it's August Macbeth against Reinhard Koffler. The white and blue car of Macbeth, it's number 54, stays ahead of number 14. Driving through, they're going to put it over to work on the bodywork. No, they're not. It's drive through the pits, wait till you've got over the white line and the exit, then accelerate away. Where will he come out? In anybody's guess. Just trying to pick out who's coming down the track. Bit of a gap. You can see the Sin in the background. And the Sin is running in 22nd position, so he's come out in about 20th place. Even Vlachov at the wheel of the number 11 Sin R1. Well, Jerome Demey has just lost a couple of positions. He just lost a position to Macbeth and Koffler, number 50. Oh, final corner, and you go for a spin. That's unfortunate, but he's managed somehow to get it going again. And that is Piotr Chodson, so he was down towards the tail end of the order, but he has lost a lot of ground there. So the pit window is now open. When will Ricardo van der Ende get a go in this car? The number 8 BMW in the hands of Max Kobel, who's driven an exemplary race. He started from pole position, but has made all the running ever since in that, and really produced a fantastic performance. Has it all under control. I think they can pick their moment. Will Moors, having got into second place past the McLaren of Csaba Mor, has also been lapping. Well, in fact, last time he gained a tiny bit. It's down to 6 seconds flat, first to second. The third to fourth, though, is much, much closer. Csaba Mor, Mads Siljehaug, if there's more than 0.2 of a second between them in this battle for third place when they cross the finish line, I'll be immensely surprised. 0.291 of a second. Alain Ferte keeping them honest, keeping there in 5th place overall. August Macbeth, Reinhard Koffler in behind. Jerome Demey lost those 2 places, falls to 8th place. And now we've got a whole host of cars, including, I think, the street art racing Aston Martin. Yes, there it is, in from 8th place, but he had lost those 2 positions. Right in behind, though, we have Nicky Leutwiler about to hand over the 222 TFT Racing Cayman to Ander Villarino. So will there be a place change in the course of the pit stops? Pit stops kept remarkably controlled by having a minimum time you can spend in the pits, so it leads to fewer mechanics having to work on the cars and a few people trying to rush that little bit too much. But there's the 34 car, of course, that tumbled down way down the order, 20th position. Now they struggle to open the roof. Maybe they'll be able to tape up some of that bodywork now they're having a proper pit stop. But down to 20th for 34, and it should be William Meyer taking over from Lennart Marianek. Quiet in the pits for the first 25 minutes, and then suddenly very busy indeed. So Max Kobel leading by almost precisely 6 seconds in his BMW M4. There it is, everything under control, looking poised, balanced, very professionally presented. Not coming in this time around, staying out for more, having too much fun. Max Kobel comes around to complete the 13th lap, and there was no place order change. The 222 Porsche coming out immediately behind the number 7 Aston Martin, or the 007, the 007, as you would in James Bond world call it. So Jerome Demey has handed over to Julian Darras. Leaving the pit lane, including the Las Maras Racing entry, the McLaren, Luke Brahms and Duncan Houseman. But they're not at the front end of the field this weekend. Number 13 diving into the pits as well. It's getting busy in there. That's one of the 2 new Porsche Caymans, Schwede Motorsport, who've come out to play in the championship this weekend. And this car number 15 just leaving the pit lane. But race leader Max Kobel, now gaps come down again. 5.8 seconds his advantage at the head of the field. Still waiting for him to make his pit visit. Still waiting for Will Moore, the Academy Aston Martin, to make its call as well. And of course Csaba Mor in 3rd place. Majority of the front runners, majority of the top 10 or thereabouts, still out on the circuit. Yet Chris M4 BMW flashing lights, doesn't want to be delayed. The gap has been coming down first part of this lap. He's responded slightly to the challenge from Will Moore. But I do think a lot of this is down to where the traffic can be found out around the course of the circuit. this is going to be his in-lap. I think the body language is such that it is, or is he just thinking, all right, I've got two more laps to really press, but Ricardo van der Ende, I'm sure, will be getting ready. Car number 44, drive-through penalty for causing a collision. Unfortunately for 44, that is the number on the door of Marilyn Niederhauser and Naomi Schiff in their KTM Crossbow RYS Team WP. And here is Max Cobalt into the pits, as I was just checking to see who was in that car. So Max Cobalt, his race is run, but importantly, he brought it in on a lead of about 5 and a bit seconds. Is Will Moore going to follow in his Aston Martin, or is he going to carry on a little longer? No, he's come in the background of the shot. We should be seeing the black Aston Martin coming in as well. So in on the same lap, they were 5.8 seconds apart. Won't be able to tell you if it's got any closer, because one, the garages might be before the start-finish line and one after. But now that means by not having come in, we should have Alain Ferté leading the race, unless he's about to duck into the pit lane as well. So looking to see if the number 4 entry from Energy by ART, that Cayman, goes into the lead of the race. Still not listed as a pit visitor, but it looks like Mads Siljehaug has ducked in as well. Csaba Mor is in from 3rd, Siljehaug from 4th. It looks all very ordered. This Aston Martin has already made its pit stop. Julian Darras taken over from Jerome Demey. Can we see any damage on the back? A little bit of scuffing, yes, where he got hit by the 34. KTM Crossbow. And at Marionette, just getting that little bit too close. And quite a surprising place to do it, coming up the crest of the hill to turns 11 and 12. Not an obvious place for someone to do any braking, in fairness, not quite at that point. 24 stepping in over that wide edge. Emil Westman sharing with Samuel Sladecker. Pit window still open, but it's the likes of Alain Ferté who's now, well, effectively in the lead of the race, but he has to make his pit stop with a handful of cars not coming. August Beth hasn't come in the 54 KTM Crossbow, and nor has Reinhard Koffler, who had that unfortunate off. There's Matt Nicol-Jones coming out of the pit lane. So he hasn't managed to jump race leaders. And as he leaves in his black Aston Martin, roaring away around the final corner, another Aston Martin, the Street Art Racing car. Car 75 under investigation for an unsafe release in the pit lane. That's Dario Cerati handing over his Orlando Sports Porsche 911 to Maurizio Fondi. They started down at the very tail end of the grid. There's the system. Oh, well, there is a moment. Is that? Checking if that's the Orlandi car of Cerati. No, that's the sister car. That's the 76 Orlando Sport car. That was Giuseppe Jesi and Emanuele Mengozzi. There's the replay of the 75 car. Was indeed close. Right, with the front runners having made their pit stops, we're waiting to see the margin between Ricardo van der Ende, who's taken over the Ecris M4 Sport M4 BMW. See how much his advantage is over Matt Nicol-Jones. 14 trickles into the pits. That is poor Reinhard Koffler's car. Don't forget, of course, we had that. He ran off the circuit down at turn 1, ran through the gravel, came out at about 26th place or so, managed to pick his way right into the back of the top 10. So really strong run there. Any threat of rain, I think we can safely say, has gone away. We have 27 minutes this race remaining, and the sky is as bright as it's been for many an hour here at the Nürburgring. So Heikki Angermeyer taking over from Reinhard Koffler in the number 14 KTM Crossbow. This is won by RYS Team KTM. August Macbeth's car is in there as well. That will be handed across as well to Benjamin Mazatis, RYS Team Pankel. Now, is that roof not shut, or is it something inside they wanted to attend to? Doesn't appear to want to shut. It's going up, it's going down. Big problem for Reinhard Koffler. Just needed to shut it a lot harder. So Reinhardt's doubly cross with himself. He's delayed that pit stop by 2 or 3 seconds, which will not be pleasing him, especially in a chase drive when he was chasing back up after that early problem. But he can't get much earlier to make a mistake in a race than the opening corner of lap number 1, which is where Koffler went down to turn 1 and through the gravel. Benjamin Mazatis sharing with August Macbeth comes out onto the circuit. That car has been right up in the mix for RYS Team Pankel. So now waiting to see where the number 8 BMW will come round at the end of this lap. What will be its advantage over Matt Nicol-Jones? Jerome Demey pressing on. Well, no, Jerome Demey, it's his teammate, sorry, Julian Duras. And here is the number 8 BMW setting away. Ricardo van der Ende already vaulting over the curbs. Everybody has made their pit stops now. Pit window's just closed. And we have the message at the top of the screen. Right, 25 minutes to the checkered flag. Nice clear track one. Maserati in front of him, but importantly, where is the black Aston Martin? Won't quite be in the background. It was about just under, it was 5.8 seconds down before they came in from first and second on the same lap for their pit stop. Their one and only pit stop, they hope. Here the 62 Aston Martin, Matt Nicol-Jones at the wheel of that. Looks like he's lost a few seconds in the overall mix. He's approaching the chicane, coming out of the chicane. So, here we have our new, well, the race leader from the outset. They've all completed their laps, their pit stop. There is the Aston Martin in the background. Well, maybe it is about the same gap. It was 5.8 seconds between them. Now, it's 6.1. Not much in it at all. So it's up to Matt Nicol-Jones to start winding it up. I'm fairly sure that Ricardo van der Ende has got the answers now, looking to see who's in the background, who's coming in third place. It looks as though it's the number 4. Yes, it's Grégoire de Moustier just coming down the slope. He should be in third place. Drive-through penalty for car number 21. That's one of the Allied Racing cars. No, hold on a second. We've got Hutchison, who's listed as in third place. And Jerome Villarino in fourth. Then Jerome Demey in fifth. That's what we had there. Okay, number 4. Tucked in behind is Grégoire de Moustier. But I think they're actually third and fourth, not fifth and sixth, because I think the others are still on their outlaps after their pit stops. Well, what I can tell you for sure, it's 6.1 seconds between first and second. And Ricardo van der Ende in that number 8 BMW leading the way, just gained a tiny bit. And a combination of his pit stop and his outlap after those pit stops. And it's up for Matt Nicol-Jones to see what he can do by way of response. In the first sector of the lap, he's pulled a little bit back, so the Aston Martin coming in. The Aston Martin we're looking at now, Julian Darras has got Grégoire de Moustier all over him in the chasing number 4 Energy by ART Porsche Cayman. Down to the hairpin, however, it looks as though Julian Darras gained a little bit of an advantage. Heike Angermeyer tucked in behind them in the black and orange KTM Crossbow. That's number 14. That was delayed, of course, in its pit stop. Actually, that said, the pit stop must have been pretty good, but it was the getting the door closed that's lost position there. The very point that silver Aston Martin was clattered, you can see the bodywork still in the track when he was hit by the number 34 much earlier in the race, but too many cars on the track for a marshal to venture out from behind their position of safety to remove that bit. But all the drivers now know it's there, but don't forget, some of the drivers only just back out onto the circuit. So, right, the order for the top 4 positions is as it was before. Ricardo van der Ende is now leading this race by just waiting to see the latest confirmation. Has he extended his lead? 50. It's come. Oh, he's almost doubled. Matt Nicol-Jones now 12 seconds down. Much slower lap there. Should have been the race leader 2 minutes and 8. Matt Nicol-Jones lapping 2 minutes 13, nearly 2 minutes 14. Now, was that one problem with traffic, or simply just being cautious while he gets up to speed? He's very safe. Well, if he drops at that rate, you'll suddenly have Finlay Hutchinson challenging him for second place. Hutchinson, yeah, faster last time around. In fact, Hutchinson, the fastest driver on the circuit, in third place, faster than Ricardo van der Ende, who's leading the way. Number 4, right in the hunt, Grégoire de Moustier, leading the Pro-Am class in that white and red number 4 Porsche. Not so far behind Julian Darras, who's fourth, just gained a position, and now someone travelling slowly. Which of the car has got a blue nose? Does that make it the Team Pankel 54? Yes, it does. So a short run there for Benjamin Mazatis. And that was driven very well by August Macbeth, so it'll be double disappointment for them. And I'm sure diving for the pit entry. Oh dear, driving slowly at turn 15, most certainly is. So that eases things up a little bit at the front end. Number 7 has had a good lap to get past 64, so 64 losing a little bit of ground with Jamie van den Belt there. An advantage to the Aston Martin in 4th place. There it is from Street Art Racing, Julian Darras. Now can Jamie van den Belt hold on, because he's now suddenly got Gregoire de Moustier and Eike Angermeyer closing in behind in the crossbow, and there's another Porsche tucked in behind those, and a Villarino in the 222 Cayman. So great jousting out on the circuit, orders changing left, right and centre. I still have no idea, it must have been a spin by Matt Nicol-Jones, because he's lapping as fast, nearly, as the race leader. He lost 6.5 seconds to Ricardo van der Ende on the last lap, and now he's lapping, matching him, in fact, just a 1/10 of a second slower this time around. So there must have been one spin, and that's cost 6 seconds chucked out of the window there. 6-7 seconds cost by Matt Nicol-Jones. Haven't seen where it happened. 2 second stop and go penalty, message coming up on my timing screen for, this always happens, for not matching the minimum pit time. 2 seconds stop and go penalty for car number 77, and that's one of the Scuderia Viorba course Maseratis, Romy Dall'Antonio and Giuseppe Fasticolo. Now, looking around this lap, has Matt Nicol-Jones picked up the pace again? Most certainly has for the Academy Motorsport crew. So maybe he doesn't have to worry so much. In fact, he stretched his advantage over Finley Hutchinson last time around. Could have been a bit of traffic, but the McLaren in 3rd place did not gain ground. Street Art Racing Aston Martin. Time to stop. 1-2 seconds at a standstill. Off you go. That's what a 2 second stop-go penalty looks like. The number 4 Energy by ART Cayman getting right into the action there. Gregoire de Moustier now really almost pushing the 64 KTM around the corner. That's the RYS Team Internex car. Jamie van den Belt not showing quite the sparkling pace that Mads Siljehaug did in the first part of the race. I mean, we're talking tenths here or there, but he is backing up that grouping behind, which is very, very good indeed. Very good news for the Street Art Racing car, because Julian Darras in number 007 can now concentrate on his racing lines. How's that for close? Welcome to the championship. Schrader Motorsports, Philippe Bethke, one presumes Mark Basseng at the wheel right now. So it is 13th place overall, but you feel Basseng is far from done. And absolutely shoving the 994 entry Nikolai Moller-Madsen around. Nikolai being very defensive, taking one line, and very, very twitchy. He's going to have to go around the outside, and I have a feeling Basseng's going to make that work, and clouting the curb on the inside, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, but the pass is made as they drop down into the dip out of turns 13. Advantage to one of the 2 championship newcomers from Schrader Motorsport. Various incidents under investigation. Car 112 under investigation. That's the RN Vision STS car of Pavel Lefterov and Jean-Louis Jasper for contact with the 54, the RYS Team Pankel, Benjamin Massatis, August Macbeth car, which we saw limping in very slowly. But one car not limping in, one car flying around at the front of the field is Ricardo van der Ende. It's made look. Here's a replay. Let's have a look. Have we contact? No, but by golly, how close could that be? Down at the hairpin. Fantastic camera work, just showing how close these Caymans can get. And there's 54. We saw it limping into the pit lane. It's moving now, but only just. The RYS Team Pankel car obviously went back out onto the circuit and now seems lost somewhere in the Eiffel Forest. That's on the exit of turn 2. Seems to have some motive power, rejoining the circuit just as the track bends to the left at turn 3. Matt Nicol-Jones lapping almost identical pace, but that little spin that cost him 6 or 7 seconds has just meant the chances of catching the race-leading BMW of Ricardo van der Ende really have come and gone. Press on as hard as he can, but he was 5.8 seconds down. Well, his car was when it came into the pits. It was pretty much exactly the same interval behind, but then that spin as he just started to eke his way closer the BMW has not cost him second place, but it's cost him a tilt at victory, because down the start-finish straight we go, and that is what 12 seconds or so looks like, and if anything it might have gone out a tiny bit. Let's see. Yeah, 12.6 seconds now, but still way clear of the chasing pack. You can see the McLaren in the background, the white car with the black bonnet and the blue flashing. Finley Hutchinson, yeah, well, he took a little bit out of the race leader and a bit more out of Matt Nicol-Jones, but he's only got a quarter of an hour. He's 7.6 seconds down. He may be able to get on the tail of the Aston Martin. Let us see. Weather conditions have reverted to how they were at the start of the day in terms of blue sky, almost wherever you look at the Nürburgring. But don't forget, this morning the track was greasy. Have been very cold overnight, possibly a little bit of rain as well. Now conditions absolutely perfect. Van der Ende leading this race from Matt Nicol-Jones, Finley Hutchinson third in his McLaren, Julian Duras fourth in the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. The best of the KTM crossbows is in fifth place. Jamie Vandenbout just holding off de Moustier, another drive-through penalty, or stop-go, I beg your pardon. Penalty for contact out on the circuit. Top car in the Pro-Am class, the white Porsche Cayman in the middle of your shot. Gregoire de Moustier building on the work that was put in. Fantastic opening stint by his veteran teammate Alain Ferté. Sixth place overall at the moment. Can't do anything about the car in front, however. Heikki Angermeyer just holding on to that fifth place. In fact, Angermeyer's just in the middle of the mix. In fact, we've just had a few places lost by them before. Let's just check who's tucked in behind. There is Duras in fourth place. Jamie Vandenbalk, yes, so a place has been lost by de Moustier in this lap. So Angermeyer has got past Gregoire de Moustier, trying to get out the inside line to get the position back, and does so on the way into the chicane. So it's chopping and changing, and then suddenly Angermeyer loses about 3 positions. Found the outside line wasn't the best one into the chicane, into the final quarter of an hour. That was an awful couple of corners. Having gained a position to suddenly lose 3 must be very, very hard to take. And still the Street Art Racing Aston Martin has that little advantage over Vandenbalk, but enough. Vandenbalk now has got de Moustier, trying to see what he can do. So 2 KTM crossbows being chased by Porsche Caymans. In the background, 222, the white car with more red on top of it is closing in. That's Sander Villarino in 8th place overall, second in the Pro-Am class. Ricardo Van Ende finding things easy at the front of the race. There might have been a challenge. There's a car sideways. Oh, it's the background. It's the Patrick Bullet Racing McLaren still sitting at the side of the circuit. Just saw a flash of white in the far distance. But really, the battle for around 6th. Oh, there it is, on the back of a truck being brought back in. I thought it was still sitting at the side of the circuit out of harm's way, but now it's in the foreground of the shot, not the background. So disappointment. Andy Merrick didn't get to race that. So the number 4 Energy by ART Porsche Cayman has had a lot of battling to do. It's seen an awful lot at the back of the number 64 KTM crossbow from RYS Team Internet X, and it continues to be there. First of all, it was Mads Siljehaug holding off Alain Ferté, and now it's his teammate Jamie Vandenbalk doing exactly the same to Ferté's teammate Gregoire de Moustier. And having been in the thick of the battle but then broken clear during its first stint in the hand of Jerome Demey, Julian Duras is enjoying that same advantage, just clear of this pack in the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. There it is, the silver car with the multicoloured bodywork up into the chicane one more time. This should be their 22nd time into the chicane. First 3 cars already started their 23rd lap. 13.2 seconds between Ricardo Van der Ende and Matt Nicol-Jones, and then a gap of just under 7 seconds, 6.8 seconds between Nicol Jones and Finlay Hutchinson, who continues to press on. Again, the fastest driver of the top three, but we are talking about by tenths of a second. And again, de Moustier looks to see what he can do down into turn one. Tight entry, tightish exit, but still stays behind Jamie van den Balk in the KTM Crossbow. The light getting lower in the sky in the face of a lot of the runners out at various points around the circuit. Yes, once you can see a driver's face fully illuminated, you know they can see much less than they could earlier in the race. The sun lowering itself down at the far end of the circuit, effectively down the bottom of the hill over the turn 8 hairpin. Still that little bit of tape on the front of the Porsche Cayman flapping around in the breeze. And Gregoire de Moustier almost up the inside on the exit of the corner, but Jamie van den Balk, it's almost so he didn't see him, just kept to his line and continues to hold down a 5th place overall. Great shot of the cars. It just shows how dynamic they are out over the curbing. That wonderful uphill Schumacher sweep. Turns 9 and 10. A little bit of a twitch there. Mikey Angermeyer, number 14 KTM Crossbow. Ricardo van der Ende starts another lap. Has he stretched an advantage? Or is it coming down from Matt Nicol Jones into the final 10 minutes? You feel that whatever is gained is too little too late. It comes down, yeah, very slightly by almost a 20th of a second there. 13.1 seconds. And still Finlay Hutchinson chasing after, but in fact he was slower than the first two cars last time around. You can be sure a bit of traffic was involved in that, because certainly the number 10, Akit Vershaw, McLaren has been going very well in the Scottish driver's hands. Look how close it is in this battle. 5th place, Jamie van den Balk in 64 KTM Crossbow. Gregoire de Moustier tucked in behind in the number 4 Pro-Am class leading Porsche. And Ike Angermeyer, we've seen him having a couple of little slips and slides. And 22.2 and a Villarino is 2nd in the Pro-Am class in the 2nd of the Porsche Caymans, getting closer and closer, just to the tail of the group there. Just thought I'd point out, late stage in the race, lost the position on the circuit, but leading the AM class is number 6, 76, which is one of the 2 Auto Orlando Sport Porsches, and that's in the hands of Manuele Mingozzi. 2 positions up the track, ahead of the number 3 Pro Sport Performance car with Dieter Schmidtmann at the wheel. But nobody at the moment is doing anything to interrupt the progress of our race leader. Max Cobalt did a fantastic opening stint, and Ricardo van der Ende, as expected, absolutely matching that, to keep the advantage of about 12 to 14 seconds, wherever, somewhere in that mix, over the driver who's giving chase, but having had that spin quite early in his stint, just soon after the pit stop. Matt Nicol Jones really can do very little more in the academy. Aston Martin, he's sitting on a 7-second advantage, should be able to hold that for the final 7 minutes of the race. But here comes Ricardo van der Ende one more time down the start-finish straight. That's 24 laps done. In the background of the shot, Matt Nicol Jones in the black Aston Martin of Academy Motorsports. 13 seconds almost precisely between them, so a fraction gain, but it won't be enough. There, down to turn 1, braking hard on the outside line, swinging the widest possible line around the circuit. Around turn 1, you have to set yourself up immediately for turn 2. Goes Matt Nicol Jones. Finlay Hutchinson out of the turn 1 into turn 2 in his number 10 McLaren. Again, he gained a little bit on both the cars ahead of him. He's now just 6.7 seconds down on Matt Nicol Jones, but you do feel the clock is going to run down just too fast for him in this wonderful battle. After Jerome Julian Darras in the number 007 Aston Martin, the 007 Aston Martin, Street Art Racing, then a little bit of a gap, and then we get to Jamie van den Balk, chased so hard by the number 4 Porsche, Gregoire de Moustier, Ike Angermeyer and a Villarino. There is that shot there. with Jamie van der Balk in 64, resisting a huge amount of pressure from Gregoire de Moustier in the Porsche. And then number 14 tucked in behind. Eike Angermeyer took over from Reinhard Koffler. You do wonder if they managed to get the door shut in rather fewer attempts if we'd have had that car at the head of this little pack rather than third in this 4-car grouping. 5.5 minutes remain. Some drivers starting to set their cars fastest laps of the race, even at this late stage. Best place of car doing that at the moment is car number 74, with a very good lap last time around, and that's in the hands of Cedric Freiberghaus, who took that over down in where he doesn't want to be, down in 13th position, took it over from Laura Kreihammer. So even at this late stage, and likewise car number 16 going increasingly well. Nico Rindlisbacher has taken over from Christian Danner as the co-driver of Benhart Laber. And the Mono Megatron team Partrax came and he to set that car's fastest lap. So what can 222 do? 222 do under Villarino. He's the 4th car in this 4-car train. He's had a couple of little looks at Eike Angermeyer. She's been a little unsettled. Clearly another penalty. We've just seen the Generation AMR Super Racing Aston Martin coming out of the pit lane. Not after a regular pit stop though. That's number 144. In fact, they've just had their 3rd visit to the pits since they got lonely. And it's Matthew George at the wheel. Battle for 5th place rages on, very, very close indeed. 1.5 seconds covering 5th through to 8th places. But we've been, I was about to say, we haven't had a change in that position. Fleetingly, we had Ander Villarino getting ahead of Angermeyer, but Angermeyer had the better line out of turn 4. But does she have the momentum down the hill? Because certainly more momentum carried by Ander Villarino, and now he has got ahead. So taking the wide entry gave him a smoother run through the corner. Angermeyer was tricked into taking the tighter inside line by the sheer amount of pressure. So at last, a change in the top handful of cars. No change at the front though, still sitting on a 13-second lead. Ricardo van der Ende from Matt Nicol-Jones. Finley Hutchison 6.3 seconds down on Matt Nicol-Jones, now in 3rd place in that number 10 McLaren. It's been a peerless performance at the front of the field. 3 and a bit minutes remaining, and it's still advantage all the way to the Ecris Motorsport BMW. Waiting for it. Coming to shot very soon indeed around the final corner. There it is after a couple of the Maseratis in terms of position down the start-finish straight, but in terms of position in the race, well clear. Slightly slower lap last time around, but no need for concern. It'll be this lap and the next one for the Dutch crew from Ecris Motorsport. Gap comes down to 12.8 seconds. That's absolutely fine. It's all under control by van der Ende. And van der Ende, 38 years old now, but he was a multiple Formula Ford winner at the turn of the millennium. And GT4 Euro champion in 2011, 2013 and 2014. You certainly feel this is title number 4 coming their way. Matt Nicol-Jones building on a great job done by Will Moore. Looks very safe in 2nd place, but look in the background in case there's a McLaren closing in, just coming into the background of the shot, but was 7.2 seconds down in 3rd place. As hard as Finley Hutchison charges, it seems Matt Nicol-Jones has got enough in hand. He'll still be kicking himself for the spin that cost him 6 or 7 seconds, but really he wasn't going to be able to pick more than tenths here and there off the race leader. Ricardo van der Ende hasn't had to press very hard indeed. He's known what he's got to do, built on an excellent start, excellent first half of the race from Max Cobalt. And there is number 10 McLaren down in 3rd place. A little bit of traffic up ahead, but they're under no threat from behind because Julian Duras and the Street Art Racing Aston Martin is about 11 seconds behind in 4th place. So I think we know the identity of this, the penultimate lap of our podium visitors. So before the start, people were looking at the skies, wondering, will those dark clouds translate into rain? They haven't, and far from it. In fact, we've got a beautiful evening here at the Nürburgring. We've got another race for the GT4 European Series Northern Cup tomorrow. Today's is almost run. The Street Art Racing Aston Martin heading to 4th place overall. Started by Jerome Demey, handed over to Julian Darras. They came under a lot of pressure, but the pressure is now about 4 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds behind them on the track. Jamie van den Buyck leading that battle for 5th place. So the race leader onto the final lap with a 12.2 seconds advantage. There's the 3rd place Aston McLaren, the 4th place Aston Martin in the rear of the shot, just coming into the sunshine out of the shade. And whether it is gaining on Finlay Hutchinson, yes it is, gained 1.6 seconds, it rather matters not. It's the battle behind that may have the place changes. 5th place, it's still Jamie van den Buyck. Gregoire de Moustier has been so close, not just on the track, but almost getting into under the rear wing of that car on several occasions. Still fighting over a 5th, with a bit of a gap back to Ander Villarino in 7th in the 222 Porsche Cayman, and Eiki Angermeyer in the 14 KTM Crossbow. Gregoire de Moustier leading the way, only by 1 position on the circuit though in the Pro-Am class, because just a second and a bit behind him under Villarino, 2nd in the Pro-Am class, but nobody can do anything about the checkered flag. We've reached the top of the hour, the end of our hour. Ricardo van der Ende completing the task with half a lap to go. Brilliant start by Max Kobel, untroubled down to turn 1. And this should be their 4th win of the season. They took the 2 wins at the Red Bull Ring back in early June, picked up another win a month later at Slovakia Ring. Win number 4 from pole position for Max Kobalt and Ricardo van der Ende for Ekfris Motorsport and their BMW M4. Beautifully presented, beautifully driven, only has the chicane and the final corner to complete, and win number 4 will be theirs. Not a wheel out of place in this race, powered away from pole, had everything under control. And there to take the checkered flag, swooping over towards the flag bearer and their own crew further down the pit wall. Victory by a handsome margin of a dozen seconds or so ahead of Matt Nicol-Jones as he takes the last corner for the final time. So it's Aston Martin, victory to BMW, Aston Martin in 2nd place and McLaren in the background. It was 10.7 seconds at the end. Gap between 2nd and 3rd, 8.4 seconds. So relatively close together, but who will come home in 4th place? It should be the Street Art Racing Aston Martin. There it is, just coming across the start-finish line. That is under control, so that's number 7. Jamie van den Buyck just holds on to 6th place overall, 5th place overall, and then de Moustier suddenly became concerned about the attack from behind and seemed to have his eyes on that, but just manages to hold off under Villarino to take the Pro-Am class honours. So 4 from 222, and number 9, Duncan Houseman, great run for him for Las Maras Racing, brought the McLaren up to 9th place overall, and 3rd in the Pro-Am class. Just waiting for the top finisher in the Am class, and it should be Manuele Mengozzi. Here he is, if it's the 76 Porsche coming up through the evening sunshine. And there it is, well caught by the crews around the circuit. So Mengozzi will win that from the Porsche Cayman of Dieter Schmidtmann. And 3rd in class should be number 11. 19th overall, but 3rd in the Am class, which is Ivan Vlachov driving the Sin on his own. So here comes number 3 to come home. 18th overall, 2nd in the Am class, but 16th overall was good for victory for Manuele Mengozzi. So the Sin has had a spin at the final corner of the circuit, waiting for him to come home in 3rd place in class, but is he going to fall to 4th? But let's take a look at the results. Victory by 10.7 seconds for the BMW crew, Max Kobalt and Ricardo van der Ende. No wonder they're already this year's champions. Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones up from 8th to 2nd, great performance. Finlay Hutchinson building on the start by Csaba Mor to make the McLaren 3rd at the end. And then Jerome Demey, Julian Darras, a 2nd Aston Martin in the top 4. And they were just always ahead of the battling behind. And the best of the KTMs, Mads Siljehaug and Jamie van den Buyck, just holding off the top finisher in the Pro-Am class. 6th place overall for Alain Ferté and Gregoire de Moustier. And at the end of the race, they had Ander Villarino right under their tail in 7th place overall. Top car in the AM class was Getzi and Mengozzi, who won that in 16th overall. But then, of course, we saw the spinner right at the end, number 11, Ivan Vlachov, classed as 23rd, but he should have been rather higher and should have been third in the AM class. A spin at the final corner. How galling, but it's been great racing here at the Nürburgring. We'll do it all over again tomorrow. And for the teams that thought it might get wet during the race, they proved themselves wrong. But you have to guess. You never know what you're going to get in the Eiffel Forest. But look at the evening sunshine over the trees in the distance beyond the Nürburgring. It's a fantastic evening of racing. And the penultimate race, let's take a look at the start of the race. The Aston Martin black one, look for it, gaining positions hand over fist, but Reinhard Koffler got it wrong, out of second place on the run to the first corner. Maybe he'd fallen to third, then he fell to about 26th in the gravel. But it was the BMW all the way from the front, had that clean start in the hands of Max Cobalt. And increasingly, those behind were tripping over each other. Fantastic mid-pack action, some less fantastic mid-pack action, 94 and 30 having a little bit of a clash out of turn one. And then the most extraordinary moment in the race when 34 managed to clatter, that's Lennart Marionek, clatter the back of the Aston Martin, did damage to itself, and it's quite possible 31 did damage to itself. And how's that for a save by Alain Ferte down at the hairpin. So nearly collected by the Street Art Racing Aston Martin behind. But eventually the tattered bodywork on 34 required a visit to the pits for a drive-through penalty, and that dropped it out of the mix. So it didn't matter how hard Lennart Marionek pushed on. There is that drive-through penalty being served. That little drive-through really cost them position. Then it was time for the pit stops, and look how busy the pit lane became. Slightly unsafe release here, straight in front of another Porsche. So the 75 crew gained a drive-through penalty for their efforts. But into the pits from the lead, out of the pits, first and second, separated by about the same margin. But then we reckon there's a spin for Matt Nicol-Jones. He lost 6 seconds in one lap, and that dropped him, doubled his disadvantage. And how close would you like the cars to be down at turn 8 at the bottom of the hill? But the closest racing really was this battle for between 6th and 9th positions, sometimes 5th and 8th. But nobody got close to the BMW at the front. And here is the checkered flag. 1 hour of racing completed. Win number 4 for this year's champions. And Max Cobalt, standing in the pit lane, was delighted as Ricardo van der Ende brought the Ecris M4 back home with a clear victory ahead of the Academy Motorsport Aston Martin, which is still to arrive back in the paddock. Such was the advantage they enjoyed at the finish. Now all those drivers standing in behind the podium, waiting to go out to enjoy the spoils after some great racing this afternoon. But really, the Ecris Motorsport crew had it all wholly under control. And waiting for the top 3 to come out. There's championship organiser walking in, Max Brahms, waiting for Finley Hutchison and Csaba Mor should be the first ones out. They finished 3rd overall. But in fact, we seem to be getting Max Cobalt seems to be coming out. I think he needs to move to one side to let the 3rd place crews come out. Look how many trophies are there. Here's our 3rd place crew. Csaba Mor following out after Finley Hutchinson. Good run for them in the McLaren. 2nd place, Will Moore and Matt Nicol-Jones. The Aston Martin crew still trying to speak to their family on the beach in Portugal, Moore's family. And onto the top step, Ricardo van der Ende on the left and Max Cobalt on the right of your screen. So now the Dutch national anthem. So smiles aplenty up on the top step, ready, winners' caps back on. Ricardo van der Ende and Max Cobalt. It's been a fantastic season for them and for Matt Nicol-Jones and Will Moore. They're delighted to be up there right in the mix. I think that result pushes them up to 2nd place in the championship. Championship organiser Max Brahms handing out the trophies. So it's one each. Csaba Mor reckoning that he should share with Finley Hutchinson, but a good run for them in the McLaren. Aston Martin crew, Academy Motorsport, trophies for them. They're going on FaceTime Live by the looks of things, but Well, it's quite a collection for Ecris Motorsport, for Ricardo van der Ende and Max Cobalt, but silverware is why people go racing. And of course, a trophy as well for Ecris Motorsport team. And again, it's been a fantastic season for them. Great presentation of the car and just such a professional job done by all concerned. Quick on the track. Are they quick with the fizz? Podium girls getting out of the way just almost in the nick of the time. Almost isn't enough. But there are the top three at the end of the two races. This, the final round of the 2017 GT4 European Series Northern Cup. It's been busy in GT4 and it's going to get busier more and more. Manufacturers getting involved more and more people and teams lining up cars to come out racing again next year. It's been a huge season of growth, but whoever's going to win next year is going to have to hit the gold standard, and the gold standard is the Ecris Motorsport BMW team with drivers Ricardo van der Ende and Max Cobalt. They set the standard. Will they do so next year? Well, we'll find out. But we've still got one more race to go, of course, the Sunday race at the Nürburgring, and I'm sure that will be every bit as action-packed as this one here on the Saturday afternoon, turning into the evening at the start of autumn here at the Nürburgring. More snaps for the Equipe Verschoor McLaren duo.